Well, hey everybody, welcome. It's nice to talk to you. I wish I could see you, but my webcam wasn't working properly today. But like almost everybody else, my situation today is a lot different than the plan I had even as soon as a couple weeks ago. So I was planning on coming to you from Marco Island, Florida, where I would be enjoying sun and fish chowder or fish soup, as my kids like to call it, and boat drinks by the pool. But like all of America, I'm here sheltered in place and trying to manage this whole crazy situation. And Mason and I had a discussion and we thought, hey, this would be a good topic to talk a little bit about HR's role in managing this response. And really, how do we keep employees safe? And what should our strategies be to help the organizations manage through the storm? As we establish and execute response plans, we always have to weigh the safety of our teams and our role as part of a community. So these communities entrust us to allow us to do business in their communities. They entrust us to buy our parts and services. So we need to pay back a little bit. We need to make sure we're all doing the right thing. And then just as we kick off, I want to talk a little bit about the laws and the rules, and everything's changing very quickly as we go through this whole process. So I think we need to, number one, we have to put safety first. It's our price of admission. And you got to remember, you don't understand everything right now. There's no playbook to do this because no one's ever gone through a crisis like this. And we haven't seen a crisis on a global scale like this since the early 1900s. And you're figuring stuff out on the fly and you're figuring it out as you go. And I'm going to tell you what a boss told me one time, a long time ago. Remember, no one's ever going to criticize you for doing the right thing, even when what you did was wrong. So as long as you're putting associates first and you're putting the safety of people first, we can work through the rest of the issues. So once you've got your team, you got your safety, you got to start getting your team accounted for and secured. So the first step in the process is going to walk you through understanding your data better than you've ever understood it before. You're going to learn things about your team that you never knew. And you have to really deep dive your data and deep dive your business. Do you know who's even working for you? Where are they? What locations do they work from? What are their deliverables? What are they accountable for? Who do they answer to? You're going to learn things like this person gets along with that person, doesn't get along with that person. I had a 15 to 20 minute discussion yesterday because two people who are still arguing about an issue that happened in high school to them had an issue with working remotely together and having accountability for a project together. So now's the time where you're going to have to really step up and help people lead through those kinds of situations. Who can work from home? And how are you going to define that? And the definition that we're using right now is who can work independently and remotely. So if you're the controller at a manufacturing plant, can you work independently? Yeah, probably. Can you work remotely? Yeah, probably. You can probably do that job from home. So should that person work remotely to limit the social distancing? Yes, he should or she should. How about a production supervisor? Well, no, you can't work remotely. Why not? Well, because everything you need to do your job, i.e. the people you're supervising, are right here. So you can't work independently. You can't work remotely. Unfortunately, that's a job that's going to have to come in. Who has to get laid off? So now you're going to say, okay, well, I've got these people now who can't work remotely. So I can't keep them on the payroll. I'm shutting down operations. So, for example, we idled all of our manufacturing operations. Now I have a pool of people who cannot work remotely. So what has to happen to them? Are they furloughed? Are they laid off? Are they terminated? How about people on workers' comp? How are you going to handle them? Who even are they? And one that I'm dealing with this morning is foreign nationals. So anybody who's working for you on a H-1B visa, you cannot legally lay them off. So what are you going to do with them? Do they have work? Can they work remotely? If they can't work remotely, do you have to pay them? What are they going to be doing during this paid period? Do you burn vacation? There's a lot of issues that go into this. How about people that are scheduled to be laid off but want to utilize vacation during this time period? And how are you going to handle it? And what's your practices and your policies going to be? Sick pay. So anyone who's in Michigan is familiar as I am. that Michigan instituted 6 sick day paid leaves for all employees. So everybody in Michigan gets their first 6 days paid for under this new law. So I went to the law to look to see what the criteria are, and very specifically, if your operations cannot run due to a public health emergency. So there you go. It's very clean and simple, but now you got to manage it. What about the people who don't get those sick days? And just an aside, there's been an effort since FMLA has been passed to turn it into paid leave. I have a feeling that this crisis is going to be a genesis that a lot of politicians are going to use to try to kick that can down the road and get it implemented. So we're going to watch closely. I saw that the Stimulus Act was passed. I'm trying to get my hands on it now to go through it in a little bit deeper context and see what it impacts. But I'm expecting to see something from the Department of Labor around FMLA and paid leave. So you need to have all these lists and all this data. Now's the time to be a good analyst and crunch all of this data. Your next biggest responsibility, and I struggle here to get to change the slide. Your next biggest struggle is going to be communications and transparency. And you know what? It's going to be transparency even when you either have nothing to say or don't know what to say. So you got to be careful. Right now is not the time to cast your team out into the wild and not include a lot of linkages back to them. My strategy is twice a week blast messages. So our payroll system allows you to blast messages to people's phones. So everyone has their pay stubs on their smartphones. We can blast out messages. So I have twice a week updates going out to everybody. Mine tend to be a little bit more homespun, but for those of you who know me and those who are going to get to know me, that's my leadership style. I tend to be very direct, very transparent, somewhat homespun, and I just kind of say what it is. Now's not time to change your style. Unless you're a jerk, then you should change your style. Follow your values. What are your values? What are your organizational values? I know Mason always loves to distribute the picture that he took of my office wall where I wrote with a marker what our values are as an organization. And now's the time to stay accountable to them, not to change them. And you know what? It's okay to not know something. It's okay to not know an answer. It's okay to not understand something. And it's okay to make a mistake on something and go back and fix it. So next step is leadership alignment. So the slide changed, but the topic really didn't change. So it's communications again. How's your leadership team communicating? Are you communicating? What are you talking about? We've instituted here a lot of different communication tools. I have a 7:30 meeting every morning with the head of manufacturing. Him and I go through the entire plan. What's happening? What are the challenges in manufacturing? What's HR support? What are people doing? You know, the two major things in this right now are going to be operations and people. We also have a standing meeting for our leadership team, 2:00 every day. It's a coronavirus response team, CVRP. We go through everything. We have an open issues list. We start from the top, go to the bottom. We talk every day ad nauseum. So we reviewed some subjects 4 or 5 times. But things are happening so fast that we've got to have these linkages and we've got to keep connected. Now's the time to take your time, believe it or not. Read things twice. Go through things with an extra level of scrutiny. Your mind is not itself. I find myself reading emails 2 or 3 times until it really sinks in. What is this saying? Because there's so much on our minds. People are hurting and people are struggling, and we're taking the brunt of that as HR leaders. So we need to be sure that we're doing careful, measured thought. Talk through even simple sounding things or simple things. The CEO and I have a lot of discussions, and we'll be just talking through something. And by the end of it, you're like, okay, well, now that I've said it out loud, doesn't make any sense. Let's move on. But those are valuable conversations. You need to keep having them. And no one's too busy to not have them with you. Remember, you don't have that normal kind of error correction window that you do. So normally if you do something, you have a day or two to think it through and go through and launch it, back it off, tweak it, test market it. Now's a time where we don't have that same luxury. So you've got to be careful and measured in your approach, and you've got to make sure your leadership team is truly aligned. Which leads us to team alignment. So this is the other piece of the remote working is, what is your team really doing? What are they working on? And is that really mission critical? So are people working on value-added items? I had an HR generalist who was working on a uniform ordering matrix. Great tool. We need it. We'll institute it after this crisis is over. Now's not the time to be working on that. You got to think, can I shift some people around? So who's playing in what spot, and can I move people around? There's an old American football saying that says you want your best players on the field at the most critical times. And then you make adjustments to make sure that you're going to be moving in the right direction. But do you have your best people working on your most important subjects? And then what is the right way to align your talent? How should you set your people up? What should you be working on? And let's face it, as this business idles, are we going to be having the same level of account payables? Do we have the same receivables coming in? Do we have the same number of purchasers and buyers? And how do we start to set the team up so it looks like what the business requires? And then finally, customer alignment. And how do we keep the business healthy? And I put this after the leadership and after your team for a reason. Because we tend to sometimes put the customer first. But really, the customer shouldn't come first. First should come your associates. Then should come your alignment as a leadership team. Then should come your team's alignment and focus. And finally, your customers come. And the reason I say it in that order is not because I don't believe they're not important. Again, those of you who know me know that one of my pet peeves is customer service. And if you really want to set me off, give me poor customer service or treat me like interruption to your day as opposed to the reason for your day as a customer. But I believe if you do those other three things very, very well, those three things lead to this thing being done better than you could ever do it if you tried to manage it. So let's take it from an automotive supplier perspective. There's a lot of challenges right now. Is automotive a critical industry? Well, if I were to say, is making SUVs and pickup trucks critical? Hey, maybe not. Does the world need another Mustang? I'm not sure. But if I put it from the perspective of the auto industry employs hundreds of thousands of people all across, mid-America, well, now it is a critical industry because we've got to keep people working where we can safely do it. We've got to keep the economy running. So we've got to do this and not let the economy tank at the same time. So how should we do it? What about supply? What about parts? What about service work? What about running to line time? All things you need to think through and kick around as a leadership team. The customers in the auto industry are ready to restart their lines. So we're starting to get pressure already to say, hey, we're going to start back up again. But you got to think about what's in the supply chain. Who can volunteer? Why are people going to volunteer? So if we go out and ask people to volunteer, are they going to say, yes, I'll come into work? But are they going to do it because they feel like they're safe, or are they going to do it because they're scared and because they think that I need to do this to maintain my job? Again, I don't have answers for all of this stuff. It's just all stuff we need to think through and be purposeful about. And your employees are looking for you as a leadership team to give them some perspective and guidance on this. So working times. So the world, we're not going back to the same world we were in. We're going to go back to a different world. What you think of as a working day is probably going to change. What you think of as work and a work day and a work location is probably going to change. And I go back to an old saying, I think it was from World War I. How are you going to get Johnny back on the farm once he's seen the lights of Paris? So we're going to have a lot of people that we've now proven, yes, you can work remotely, and remote work is possible, and I can do my job remotely. And how or should we even be changing that and pushing them back to work? What should we be doing? How should we be looking at all of this stuff? And it's going to be questions that we're going to be dealing with as a society for a while to come. People are not going to work 9 to 5 anymore. People are going to start working and balancing work around their lives. But to the extent that you're giving them that ability now, and to the extent that you're helping them do that, that's going to drive employee engagement. So when they return, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be more committed to the mission. And people know. People are paying attention. People are watching. Why are they watching? Because our employee culture is being forged in this crisis. So I'm a firm believer that crises don't expose character. Crises don't use your character. They expose your character. Who you are is going to be shown in all of this. How you treat people is going to matter. Were you the company that said, I want everybody to work and I'm not letting anybody go home and, this is ridiculous? I had one leader who actually said, you know what, this is for only people who are scaredy cats to not come in. And we had to censure her and say, no, this is a public health emergency. This is real. People are dying due to this. And we've got to take a pause. So, a lot of people in the country right now feel that same way. And a lot of people are scared. They don't know what to do. So now I believe is the time for HR to become an advocate for the whole world. So I think this even goes beyond our roles at work. We need to start finding ways to give people hope. We need to do our part and do things like help circulate people. So if people are been affected by the layoff, circulate their name. There's a group of us who've started a hashtag on LinkedIn called #AvailableTalent. We're putting people who've been impacted, you're putting their CVs out there. There's a big group of recruiters who are starting to go through there when they're looking to fill roles. There's still work going on the recruiting side. We can help connect people, connect names, connect CVs, connect openings. We can reach out, understand each other. It's interesting because the farther apart we work with this remote work, the closer we're coming together. And we're starting to understand people. And I think that a lot of the work that's been done over diversity and inclusion, it's going to really be exposed and it's going to really go on to a high level now. So remember, you've taken a long time in your career and you've developed skills and you've honed them. And many of us, I know myself included, and my wife, who also is a HR professional, labor relations professional, we spent time in steel mills and auto assembly plants and glass plants and packaging plants, and we've worked in restaurants and we've supported people who are doing the hard work. And HR's there where no one else wants to be. We need to take all those skills now and turn them back towards supporting the broader communities. People need help. People are scared. They just need to be connected. They need to be shown the way. They need to be shown that this is not the end of the world. This is not the start of Walking Dead. This is the start of America, the next level, the next generation. And what are we going to do? And what's HR going to do? What's our role going to be in starting that? So as always, thank you. I really appreciate the time. I'll be opening up for Q&A now, but I just want to plug, if you want to find me and find more of my stuff, you can find me on LinkedIn, Eric Torigian. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Torigian. www.torigian.com is my coaching website. If you visit www.torigian.com/free checklist, I have a free ultimate job search checklist that will help you manage a checklist. I also have a YouTube channel, Lessons from the Corner Office, where you can go and download tools and tricks, and I'm going to be posting coaching and inspirational messages, and I'm going to show people how to use the skills and how to go out there and manage their career and really get the career you deserve so you can have the life you deserve. So Mason, with that, I'll hand it over for Q&A.
Sure. Great presentation. Thank you for doing that. Some of those links that Eric mentioned are available there in the bio widget under his name. You can just kind of click on those little buttons, and it should take you to his Twitter page, his LinkedIn page. So they are available. You can also email him as well. So I definitely have some questions coming in. One question that I think is really relevant, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper, is any motivation techniques / ideas for supervisory roles while working remotely?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's the number one challenge right now that supervisors are going to deal with is how do you lead a remote team? So first, I'll tell you my strategy. I get my HR team together every morning, and we have a round robin, and we spend time just talking to each other. We are having a HR team building event. Well, wait a minute, Eric. We're a shelter in place. Yes, we are. So we're going to do it on Zoom. So I'm going to do a team building event with my team later this week and get them all together, and we'll sit and have a drink on Zoom. We've got a couple tools that are time trackers, and let's just get cut to the chase. Accountability doesn't go away right now, and deliverables don't change. So we've got to hold people accountable and continue to hold them to a high standard. And we're going to do that through transparency. So my number one tip to you is be transparent, engage your team, spend time with them, do the things that you would normally do. Unless you treat them like disposable items, then don't do what you normally do.
I think that's all critical right now. Even our team, like we had a kind of a little meeting this morning. If we could join, where we just got on and said hi and had a laugh and moved on. I think that's super critical right now. I'm working from home just the same as everyone else, and even I have to admit that sometimes the walls get a little close.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that connection outside, and talking to my teammates and my boss every day, is really critical to some of that. And also just kind of getting out for an hour, taking some fresh air, and kind of, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's a great thought. And another thing, too, I want to just add on to that, Mason, is, my team has a lot of parents with young children, myself included. So we showed them all on the video on one of our calls, and we made it a fun event. So instead of making it a problem event, we turned it into a fun event. Let's all look at our kids. Let's talk to our kids. We also have at my daughter's pre-K, a lot of the families who are getting closely connected, we're putting the kids together on FaceTime and things so they can stay connected. And don't forget, and I think there's a leadership column that we wrote on this not too long ago that I'm sure Mason will push out as well on the tools section. Don't forget the families of people right now. So we're focused on our associates, but they are all part of a larger unit outside of here, and we've got to make sure we're supporting that entire unit. And make sure you're doing things to make people feel valued. Families are valued. Your safety, your health is important, and then we'll get to the business.
What Eric is talking about, he actually is a contributor for our website, hrchangenetwork.com. He is a columnist. His column is called Lessons from a CHRO, and you can check that out there. There are several pieces there, some of which, unknowingly do connect to this current situation. We do have, looks like just a few more minutes here. You did talk about kind of the engagement impact of this. I'm curious, and I know there's not a lot of data on it yet, and data will become available once we get past this crisis, this pandemic, and we can kind of take a step back and look at this. But I'm curious, just from your perspective, what are some of the impacts on culture right now? Regardless of industry, maybe what are some of the things that you see that are already starting to impact culture or will be impacting culture pretty soon?
Yeah, I think the number one impact on culture was how fast were you as an organization to respond and shift from profit mode or bottom line mode into employee support and associate first mode. So people are measuring that to see what kind of an organization do I work for and do I want to work for this type of organization. I think the second thing you're seeing is this community and how important is the community to the organization. And I go back to my days at Pepsi. And at Pepsi, we always said our communities are important. And those are not just our customers, but those are the communities where we live and we play and we exist. And if you look at what Pepsi's doing in response to this, they're really putting that first. And they're putting those communities first. And food service, it's an essential business. And people need these products right now. And they're out there and they're finding ways to do it. And they're finding ways to take care of and support the community. Look at the work that Ford and Tesla and Rivian and Lucid are doing with respirators and masks. And can we figure out ways to make H95 masks? And did we ever think as many of us would know what a H95 standard was for a respirator as we do today? And, how do we fix things like hoarding? And I saw one organization, I think it was Giant Eagle, the grocery store chain, or it may have been Wegmans. I apologize, I can't remember, but They had hand sanitizer. One bottle was $3.95. Two bottles was $95. And it's like, wow, what a way to say, look, people, we're in this together. And if you want to hoard, then there's going to be an impact on you of doing it. And I think that's the stuff that people are going to look at. And then they're going to measure and say, is that the organization I want to work for? And is that where I want my efforts to be moving forward? And it's, as always, your culture is not, there's no F of your culture. Your culture is the output of everything you do.